In this video, I will demonstrate how to use content-aware scale to resize an image while protecting its subject matter using Adobe Photoshop. This technique is great if you need your image to fit a specific ratio. Instagram, for example, uses a 4:5 ratio for vertical posts, so I'll use that measurement in this video. With an image already open in Photoshop, I like to right-click on my background layer, duplicate it, and then turn off the visibility of the original layer just for safekeeping. You don't have to duplicate your image, but you do need to make sure the layer you're working on is unlocked. Then in your toolbar on the left, select the crop tool, and you can click this drop down and choose the 4:5 inches with a resolution of 300 ppi. This works perfectly for Instagram. However, this ratio might mean that part of your composition will get cropped away. So let's choose not to accept that crop. And I'll show you how to protect your subject matter while scaling your image to this correct size. This process works best if your subject matter is in the center and if you have a blurred or abstract background. Let's switch to the Quick Selection tool. Find this icon in your toolbar and then click and hold to bring up these additional options. Choose not the Object Selection tool, but the Quick Selection tool. Then in the option bar, click on Select Subject. Photoshop is going to read the pixels of your image to determine what it thinks is the subject matter. So you'll see these dots added on top of your image. They're known as marching ants, and sometimes they're spot on and sometimes they need adjusting. Back up in the options bar, you have brushes. Specifically, the plus and minus ones will help you clean up your selection. Use the plus to add any parts to the subject that might have been missed. You might not see much of a difference in my example. I'm just trying to capture a bit more of the ears and top of its head. Then switch over to the minus, and this will be used to remove parts that were selected by mistake. Next, in the option bar, this drop-down will give you more options to customize your brush. You'll probably use the size option the most. You can make it smaller to adjust any fine details within the selection. But you can also bypass that drop-down and resize your brush using the shortcut keys on your keyboard. The right bracket key will make your brush bigger, and the left bracket key will make the brush smaller. If you have a subject matter that has hair or fur, you might want to feather your selection. So if you right-click and choose Feather, and then adjust the feather radius to a set number of pixels, it should create a soft blended edge to your selection. Though it's sort of subtle, you might not see much of a difference. And as I mentioned before, this technique works best with a blurred background. So let's do that by right-clicking again and choose Select Inverse. This will select the opposite of your selection in the image. Then go up to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. In this panel, you'll use the slider to adjust the extent of the blur. Pulling to the left will add little to no blur, and pulling the slider to the right will add a lot of blur. You can also type in a specific number here. You'll choose whatever amount you prefer for your image. Click OK, and then right-click again. We're going to reverse, so select the inverse again, and it'll go back to your original selection of your subject. Then right-click and choose Save Selection. In this panel, you'll want to give your selection a name. I'll simply use Cat, and that's all you have to do here, so click OK, and you'll use this selection in a moment. You no longer need the marching ants, so go up to Select, Deselect, or use the shortcut Command or Control D on your keyboard, and they should go away. Go back to the Crop tool, still using the ratio you need, and now pull out the sides of the crop box to fit the entire composition, revealing the transparent canvas behind the image. Accept that crop, and then if needed, click Command or Control 0 to fit your image to your screen. Then go up to Edit, Content Aware Scale. I'll demonstrate this feature first, so watch as I grab the side of my image and pull it out to meet the canvas, but it's pulling the width and height together, so I'll go back and hold the Shift key on my keyboard to pull just the width. And I'll do the same for the opposite side. But notice the distortion in my subject matter. I'll undo this, and now if you go up to the option bar where it says Protect, you should see in the drop-down the selection you saved in the previous step. Make sure it's selected, But also notice this icon. You have the option of protecting skin tones so that any people in your image don't become distorted. Now you can pull out the sides of your image and your objects should stay protected. If for some reason you're not able to pull out the sides of your image, it might be because you missed a step. Make sure you're not on a locked layer. I do see a bit of distortion in my background, so you can pull farther out than the canvas to try to hide that. But once you pull too far, you'll start to lose the protection of your object. So I'll undo that, get it to a place where I like it, and accept the content-aware scale. Don't forget to save your work. I saved mine in my Creative Cloud files in a folder for this class, naming it my first name, last initial, underscore, and this is Unit 01.2 Object Protection. I'll save as a PSD, and then I'll want to save this for Instagram. A standard JPEG works well, but if you're worried about an app or a website changing your colors or desaturating your work, you can go to File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. Then in this panel on the right-hand side in this drop-down, make sure JPEG is selected and also change the quality to 100. You'll want to check Optimize, Embed Color Profile, and Convert to sRGB. At the bottom of the panel, change the width to 2000 pixels and the height should be linked and change automatically to 2500. And for quality, try bicubic sharper. And then save, not cancel or done, but save. And in this panel, I'll use the same file name and click Save one more time. And I'll show you the info for this JPEG. We take a look at mine and you'll see that my file size is 2.1 megabytes, a very reasonable size. And the resolution is a nice size at 2000 by 2500 pixels. So this image uploaded to Instagram with no problems. And that is how to use content-aware scale to resize an image while protecting its subject matter using Adobe Photoshop.